The Texas justice system is messy, so let's break it down. You're listening to So You Got Arrested, the podcast that tells you what really happens after an arrest. Hosted by Brick criminal defense attorneys, we talk to the people who've lived it, worked in it, and been shaped by it. Whether you're facing charges or just want to understand your rights, your options, and the smart moves that could change everything, we've got your back.
Good evening, everybody. This is Scott Simpson and Stephen Barrera. We're with Brick Criminal Defense. Good to see you again this week. And this week we have a guest with us. We have Lauren Lefton, and she is a part-time city magistrate. And so we're going to talk about when you get arrested, like we've been talking about a lot of different weeks. And so Lauren, I picked up a DWI.
Okay.
All right. And I'm scared. And they put me in this big cell with a bunch of different people, and some are mean. One guy pissed himself.
Oh, no.
And what the hell is going on?
It sounds like a night at the river went wrong.
Yes.
So what are you doing? What's gone wrong? Obviously, you're accused of drinking and driving,
Yes.
and now you're in the process. So whether you are guilty or not guilty is irrelevant at this point. You have to go through this experience and then hire a great law firm like maybe Brick to represent you in your DWI. So you've been arrested. The first thing, if you're arrested by San Antonio Police Department, you're going to go to the city detention center, which is on South Frio. If you're arrested by a sheriff's department or another small municipality, you're going to go straight to the Barrett County Jail on Comal Street. So I work on Frio. So if you see me as a judge, what will happen is you arrive at the city detention center. They book you. They do your standard search. That's when, in Scott's scenario, you then wake up. You're in the cell with all the other misdemeanor offenders. So not only the drunk tank with the guy that pissed himself, but you have the guy that maybe hit his wife or girlfriend and, had a little marijuana on him also. So you're in the cell with a bunch of guys sitting and waiting, and you wonder, what is taking so long? Why am I sitting here?
Yeah, how long do I have to say?
And to be clear, you said a bunch of guys. Women get arrested too, right?
Women
we
do.
promote equality here on this podcast.
Yes, plenty of women get arrested. They hit their boyfriends. They drink and drive. So women or men are all there. And they do segregate the cells. So there are 2 cells dedicated to women. There are cells dedicated to men. They separate felony men and misdemeanor men.
Oh, okay.
They also, for men, not for women, separate if they think there's a different preference in maybe gender or preferences. They keep those people separated.
I wasn't aware of that.
Right.
Okay.
So typically, I don't know the PC word.
Okay. Right. People who might identify differently or have different orientations.
Yeah,
they may get placed separately.
Yes. So they separate them as well. So they do try to create as safe of an environment so that, the angry guy doesn't attack the less angry guy. So
it's still scary.
Still very scary. And you feel very frustrated because you don't get a lot of answers. So you're sitting in the cell. The detention staff has hopefully given you a small white piece of paper with a PIN number on it. And that PIN number is supposed to allow you to make phone calls to reach out.
When does that happen? Because I know we get calls from family that say, hey, my loved one was just arrested. When am I going to hear from them?
Right. And that's a great question. So it's supposed to happen right away.
Okay.
When they're put in the cell, they're supposed to have a phone with a PIN. However, if you come in today's world, we don't memorize phone numbers anymore.
Right.
So that's the first obstacle is if you don't have any phone numbers memorized and your phone was dead or you weren't arrested with your phone, you have no way of getting numbers to call, which is a challenge. And no one can help you with that.
It's the first thing we got to learn is that we need to remember somebody's phone number if we ever get arrested.
Yes. I always say you need to have at least one number memorized, and that person needs to know to answer collect calls.
Right.
It's a 2-step process.
My next tattoo.
yeah, right. Put that on the back of all of our cards.
Yeah. So, but if you don't get the piece of paper or you can't get through, the city jail is supposed to allow you a free phone call, but it's after you've seen the judge, which can be several hours later.
So that's what I wanted to ask about. From the time that somebody is placed into cuffs by SAPD, how long is it before they get in front of you?
So it varies. What happens is the person is booked. The officer then goes to what they call the warrant clerks at the city. And he says, I've arrested so-and-so, run their criminal history. This is what they were arrested for. And then they go and they write the report. And there's no clock on these officers for how long they want to take to write the report. So DWIs, for example, are very complicated reports and involve a lot of paperwork. On top of that, if it's a blood draw DWI, so when you're arrested for a DWI, you have the option to give a breath specimen. If you refuse, typically they do go and they get a warrant from a judge. And that even probably adds at least an hour more to your wait because they get there, there's the refusal. So they go for the warrant first. The judge signs off on the warrant if there's probable cause. Then they execute the warrant, meaning they have nurses at the jail. They pull you out of your cell, take you back to the nurse's station, and they do the blood draw. And then, so that's probably added at least 30 minutes to an hour. Just before the officer even starts writing his report. Now, a little secret is a lot of these officers probably copy and paste the
I have no
narrative into the body of their police report.
An officer who doesn't want to get back on patrol.
That is a real thing.
Until the end of their shift.
Right. So let's say they make the arrest at 12:30. If they knock out the report and all of that in 2 hours, they have to keep working till 6 a.m. But if they happen to stay there till like 4:30, so unfortunately, there's just no control of how long the officer chooses to take to turn in a report. And I have to say, when I work, I try to be proactive because it's not fair to sit in a jail cell with uncertainty, not being able to contact family. The city jail does not feed you at all. There's no food there. They do provide water, of course, but it's not a comfortable circumstance. It's either cold or it's uncomfortable, it's stinky. So I try to be very proactive when I'm working in that if I can check with the clerks. If someone's been there 6 hours, I start looking for the officer and say, where's the report? And I have a nice relationship with the nurses. So if someone's there for mental health or has physical disabilities, they may say to me, hey, this guy's been here a long time. Like, let's because they want him out. Because at the end of the day, when you arrest someone, that person's body then is the possession of either the city or the county.
Right. You become responsible for them.
Right. 100%. And so I do try to help make sure if I think someone is kind of being lost or forgotten in the process to move it forward. But once the officer turns in the report, before they turn it in, first of all, there's the DA there. And the DA does review it and they make their own determination. Is there probable cause enough for arrest?
A lot of our viewers aren't familiar. I mean, we've mentioned terms like probable cause, but can you just explain what that is? If they say, hey, I'm trying to find probable cause or I want to see probable cause, what is that?
I define it as more likely than not that something happened. So there has to be a basis, a foundation, a few indicators of evidence. It doesn't mean that you're guilty.
Sure.
Doesn't mean it's a lock, solid, done deal. But for a DWI, it could be the odor of alcohol, the fact that they were driving a vehicle, an admission of drinking. And that's really enough for probable cause, in my opinion, for a DWI.
You're not
arrest.
saying somebody's guilty. You're just saying, hey, is there enough here to justify them being detained for this for now?
Correct. And maybe doing a further investigation like the blood warrant.
Okay.
Okay. So once the report is, first the DA reviews the report, they determine that there's probable cause, and they then or approve it for filing, and then they pass it on. The officer turns it into the clerks, and then the clerks prepare it and they pass it on to me. Now, because it's a revolving door 24-hour system, even if it's turned in at, let's say, 1 a.m., because they have to get in the back of the line of the other people that are waiting to see the judge, they may not see the judge till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., because it is a system. And every judge runs their court how they choose.
And we always talk about, people who are unlucky enough or, to get arrested on a Friday night or a Saturday night.
Definitely not the right time.
Yeah, I would imagine that line gets pretty long.
It can. And so I choose, again, to be proactive. So the detention staff to the municipal courtroom can bring 5 people at a time. And they do dockets of 5. But I have decided that it is faster to bring 1 people to many than many people to 1. So I am unorthodox in that I actually go back and I magistrate people in the back. I don't wait for the detention staff to come to me because I do want to help people get out faster.
Because once they're done with you, they have another stop. But
right, exactly. And they have, so then basically I see people, and I actually don't set any bonds. I make findings or determinations of probable cause, and I sign commitment orders for the city. So
let me ask you this. You're looking for this probable cause. If an officer turns in his report, maybe the DA's reviewed it and you see it and you say, hey, wait a minute, I don't find that there's enough here for probable cause. What happens?
I get to sign the all-powerful rejection form, and I can reject the case for no probable cause.
And then what happens to the person in custody?
Would get released then from the city. Now, it may take a few hours, again, because of the process, but they would get released. And I've done it plenty of times when I don't feel that there's probable cause.
Sure. And that's without them having to set bail or anything like that. No. It's just, hey, this case is not good enough. What you brought me does not pass the muster. And
now, it's important to note that doesn't mean the police can't do further investigation and still file a case with the DA's office at large. You may not be arrested down the line.
And that's what I tell everyone. I've chosen to reject the case. There is a chance the DA has what's called the statute of limitations to file these charges against you. You may or may not be arrested in the future on this, but for now, you're leaving. And I think it's an important check on the balance of powers. Just because you're arrested, just because the officer thinks there's probable cause, doesn't always mean that there is.
And
they make mistakes.
It sounds like there's no, just hard and fast timeline to these cases. So and I know you do defense work as well. Yes. I'm sure you get the same calls we do from families that are saying, hey, my loved one just got arrested. How long until they're eligible to get out? I mean, there's so many variables at play that it takes a while.
And I tell everyone that I see as the judge, plan on spending at least 24 hours until you're released from jail from when you've seen me. And when people respond very in frustration, I just say, I'd rather overestimate than underestimate.
Yeah.
Right. But it is a very long process on both sides of the process. So after you're done seeing me and you get processed, ready to go over to county where the magistrate judges there do set bonds, and that's where you're going to be released from. What takes maybe or adds more time to the fact is that the county only accepts people from San Antonio on a 2-hour bus schedule and only 10 people at a time.
Wow.
So
this is a step before they can get released on bail that they have to go through.
Right.
Not even a bond set yet.
Right. No bond set. You just need transportation from the city to the county. Okay. So it has been agreed between the two entities that there's going to be a schedule where they agree to 10 people, and it's a mix of men and women, but they don't put men and women on the same bus. So there's one transport for men, one for women, but they do 10 people on this set schedule. During the day, it's every 4 hours from like 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. It's every 2 hours. And then you get over to the county. And at that point, the county they stamp, void on all the city paperwork and they redo it all. And then the magistrate judges over there are the ones that basically conduct the same hearing, find probable cause. And then at that point, they set bond and conditions of bond.
So it sounds like, people go through this process where they're waiting in a line so that they can get in front of you. And then after that, they have to wait in another line to catch that bus over to the county detention center.
Yes.
And then wait in another line to be in front of the county magistrate to set the bond.
And then they wait in an even longer line to be released because
after they've been processed.
So then I've had the jail tell me, working as a defense attorney, that it takes 12 hours to be released from when bond is posted.
So this is after the judge has already said, hey, we're going to set bail at this amount. Your family's come up with the money. They've posted that bond. You've now, posted this bond and this promise to come back to court, and you still get held possibly another 12 hours.
I think 12 hours is being nice.
Okay. Wow.
I don't know if y'all are getting similar calls like that, but
we do. And then of course you occasionally have those issues where they put in that 48-hour family violence hold and people get held.
Or GPS.
Yeah.
So on the other side, I wanted to talk about one that you do emergency protective orders.
I do.
And I want to talk about the things like GPS and the family violence holds and things like that.
And those factors can add even more time to this process.
Right, of course.
And
yes.
and this is where you get the loved ones on the other end who are freaking out, wondering, well, I haven't heard from them. What's taking so long? How soon can they get out? And there's just all these things that need to be considered.
Right.
I know the website where I can look up to see where you're at in the Bexar County magistration process. Is there a similar thing you can look up to see where you're at in the city?
There is, I believe. And the city is very good about answering the phone. So someone can always call the city and say, is someone there? Because sometimes, even though before they're in the computer system, they're already there because they're not entered into any system until the officer has officially booked them or requested their criminal history. But they may have already been there an hour, depending on the timing of the officer. So
Sure. Let's pick that up right after the break.
Okay.
All right, and we'll go from there.
The attorneys at Brick Criminal Defense have helped over 5,000 clients move on with their lives. When an arrest or accusation turns your life upside down, we have the knowledge, experience, and integrity to get your life back on track. Traditional legal ethics, modern legal tactics, the best defense possible to get you through the criminal justice system. Search Brick Criminal Defense to see our reviews and find out why so many of our clients have trusted us to fight for them. Brick Criminal Defense, helping our clients move on with their lives.
So we're back. And then, of course, I did want to put in a plug for Lauren. She is the queen of tickets all over the state of Texas.
Yes,
she does all kinds of traffic tickets, anything involving Class Cs, everywhere.
Yes.
She's the goddess of it.
Commercial truck drivers, if you drive a truck, I'm here to help you.
And I can attest to that. I was, in my former life, a municipal court prosecutor, and I dealt with Lauren, and she did a fantastic job for her clients and saved a lot of those Class C driver's license the commercial driver's license.
But we're talking about, so you're still in the city magistrate process, and you got to finish up there and catch a bus before you go to the county.
Right.
And it's not till you get to the county that the bond company, in theory, the loved ones should be contacting bond companies, but there's not going to be any ability to make bond till they're out of your system.
Right.
So can you talk about that?
I can. So, and I think the general advice that bond companies say to people that start calling, like someone's been arrested, is they say, we can't do anything. Call us when they're in the county system, but until they're in the system, we can't even start the process.
So we're talking about an average of 6 to 8 hours in your system before they get to the county?
That's my understanding is what they've averaged it at. Yes.
Okay.
I think that's good.
All right. So
it could be longer.
So let's talk about some other things you do at the city besides finding probable cause. Tell us about emergency protective orders.
So emergency protective orders come about in some sort of family violence dynamic or situation, and it's a tool for victim protection. And what an emergency protective order does is basically prohibits the person that's subject to it from being within a certain number of feet from a specific location, like a residence or a school, and then also says you can't have contact with that person. And what the kind of the teeth of a protective order is you can get arrested on a new criminal offense if you violate it. So now I've had officers ask me for protective orders on Class C assaults. So a Class C assault is, and it can be family violence, is an offense of touching. So my little push right here to Scott could get me a Class C assault. And so, which most people don't realize it's that easy to pick up an assault. I personally don't feel that a protective order is necessary for that level of offense. Some officers do. But the law does require protective orders on certain aggravated offenses, like aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, sexual assault, things like that nature. So in that case, I have no discretion. I have to do it, and I have to do it for 90 days. However, in lesser assaultive offenses like family violence, second, which is a third-degree felony, a misdemeanor family violence assault, that is totally within my discretion if I think it's appropriate or not. And one thing that I have learned that you can tweak a protective order. So a lot of people assume protective orders mean no contact, but you do not have to check that box on a protective order. You can actually do a no harmful contact protective order, and you can do the distance from the location as 0 feet. So guess what? You get to be in the house.
I haven't seen a lot of those, though.
Probably because maybe I'm the only one doing it. But actually, just kind of an old story. I had a defense attorney call me one day like, oh, my God, my guy was at the border with the subject of a protective order. Consensually, there was no conflict going on. And they arrested him coming back into the U.S. with his wife because he was in contact. But I said, no. That's not right. For whatever reason, I happen to remember this case. I said, I did 0 feet. They can be around each other. And so, and they, I guess, the lawyer was able to get the officers to look at it, and the guy got released. But people just assume a protective order means no contact. But one thing I'm always aware of.
And in general, it does. And you should always follow protective orders.
Absolutely.
But because I've seen plenty of cases, I'm sure y'all have too, where people are driving in a car together. They have the condition of no contact. They do have a protective order, and they get pulled over for registration. And then the officer IDs both people, finds out they're not supposed to be in contact. And then that person gets arrested on a violation of protective order, which could be a felony or a misdemeanor.
Class A,
And the difficult thing about protective orders is, I mean, the reason behind them makes absolute sense. If you have somebody who's a victim of family violence, you want to give them, an opportunity to maybe get away from the person that's being abusive to them. But there are plenty of instances where you have a husband and wife maybe that go out and have a few drinks. Things get out of hand, the police get involved, and now one of the parties can't come home for 60 days. And then maybe they're raising kids together, or, they can't afford to go stay somewhere else.
Right. And that always is something in my mind is I hate for someone, one, to add more stress to the relationship that's clearly already having stress, and two, displacing someone. So where I really struggle with protective orders is you may have like a special needs or mental health adult child living with a parent. And because they're having just some sort of breakdown or issues, they may pick up an ag assault for threatening, grandma with a knife. But it's really more of a mental health issue. And this person can't function on their own. They truly have to live with their family to survive.
You don't have discretion on that.
I can do the zero.
Oh, there you go.
But I think that is the key thing is you can't have a blanket rule.
That's it.
Because this is already someone in distress that probably needs better services than they're already getting. And then you have this protective order where it creates a cycle of like constant arrests. It's a little concerning.
Well, and it's good to know that there are magistrates who take that view and view the case as an individual case with specific facts and circumstances that are unique to that case, as opposed to, like you said, just a blanket rule where everything's going to get this.
Right. That's my approach, because the consequences are too great.
Absolutely.
So I got to ask this, because we get a lot of calls from those clients who have the family violence case and the emergency protective order saying, we want to get the emergency protective order removed, which we always tell them we don't do that.
Right.
But so what would they have to do to try to do that, if it's even possible?
So my understanding, it's been a minute since I've discussed this, is because if a city judge issues that protective order, there has to be a hearing with that same city judge about withdrawing or recalling the protective order.
So you have to set it up in municipal court.
Right.
But by the time you get it set up, the
time
60 days makes no sense.
Right.
Every once in a while, I've seen somebody actually go and get it taken off.
Yeah, and you definitely can. The bigger issue is if the DA's office or the victim in the case decides to follow through with the 2-year protective order. So the emergency protective order.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only way you're going to get it removed is if the victim is saying she wants it removed.
Right.
There's no way.
Oh, right. In the emergency one. Yeah. Yes. No, I would agree.
So with regard to this time frame for the arrest that we were talking about, these are circumstances where somebody is maybe arrested by, is it SAPD?
SAPD, occasionally a trooper will come, but every other agency goes straight to Bexar County.
Straight to Bexar County Jail. And they have their same process that they do over there at the Bexar County Jail.
They do exactly have the same. It is the exact same process. There's a 24-hour DA there that's reviewing cases. The officers, book people. They turn in their reports.
It's just that it's not the double barrel that they have to go through, or the bus ride.
Correct. And it's not that additional 6 to 8 hours. You're kind of already there. So
is there any advice that you would give to maybe a loved one who has, they're saying, hey, my son was just arrested. How long is this going to take? Is there any advice that you'd give to them? Or
I feel like this is terrible advice, but be patient. They will get released. It's going to happen. You're going to be very frustrated. I feel that people that work within the systems, maybe if you call too much, things may get slower.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm just being honest.
No, it's true. It's 100% true. If you make a pain in the ass out of yourself, it's not going to go quicker.
Right. I had a client tell me that he at the county was ready to be released, and the officer said, I don't like how you're looking at me. You think this is funny? Go sit down. And kept him for 2 more hours.
Wow.
And had all the paperwork ready to go. So,
and some of this is why people get frustrated with the criminal justice system.
of course, it's very unfair and not the right. And the county also releases people in batches. So they don't.
If you don't make one batch, you got to wait for
you
the
got to
next.
wait for the next.
And give me the time frame on that. Like if you don't make one batch, when is the next batch coming?
I actually don't know.
Is it at a certain number of people or?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that answer.
Yeah.
But that I know they do.
But what we're talking about here goes back to what we said the very first episode. Don't be a jerk if you want things
Absolutely.
to go better
Right.
for you. I mean,
Absolutely.
Right.
I understand that we're saying it's not fair for people to do that, but karma exists.
Right. Well,
I mean,
and you're just in the system. Sometimes you have to let go. So if this is where you're at,
Right.
it's frustrating, but you've truly lost any control of the decisions you're making.
And it's a
So,
process.
Yeah.
And they have to, like
Right.
you said at the beginning, hey, whether you're guilty or not guilty, there's this
Yeah.
process that's going to play out
Right.
that you're going to have to take part in.
Right.
And that's what we're discussing.
Yeah. And that's my best advice is just be patient. You're going to get out, but it's going to take longer than you feel.
because later on we can fight all these issues in court, but at this point where
Right.
you're doing it and the county magistrate are doing it, there's nothing to make that go away besides a magistrate looking at it and say there's no probable cause.
Exactly.
There's no way an attorney can come rattling down there and saying, I want this case to all go away.
Right, exactly. Or here, let me, I've had many of arrested people say to me, no, if you look at my phone, you'll see the text message. They want to share their side of the story.
Right. They want to put on their case.
And that's, this is just not that opportunity. I tell them my job is to read the officer's report. And if I think the officer's report is credible, then I can find probable cause. Now, I have had an instance where I've read an officer's report that I did not find credible. And so I rejected that case. Right. So it is possible
Sure.
But
In reviewing
not but anything that the person
No.
arrested is going to say. It's about the
No.
reports and stuff.
Sometimes they will say something where I maybe start digging a little deeper. Just like, okay, well, this is an interesting question. But the one that stands out the most in my mind recently is a 17-year-old girl with a black eye was arrested for assaulting her older boyfriend. And she was pregnant.
Oh.
And
So where did the black eye come from then?
right, apparently, and it was in the report. Well, and she had made the call saying he was assaulting her.
Ugh.
And based on their investigation where he had a scratch on the side of his body, they chose to arrest her.
Wow.
Just a bad call.
I'm sorry. That is not the right. I felt the officer's report wasn't credible because how can you say this was the aggressor? And so that's like a case I rejected. No problem.
And then by rejecting that case, that person doesn't have to go through the additional 12 to 24 hours going over to the Bexar County Jail.
Right, exactly.
Nor do they have to pose bond, nor do they have to show up at court unless somebody refiles it later down the line.
Which hopefully in that circumstance they didn't.
Or hopefully if somebody from SAPD did file it with the intake section as an at-large case, the intake prosecutor will look at this and say this is bull.
Yeah, hopefully.
Right. Or hopefully they had a supervisor like Scott Simpson who said, hey,
what are you doing accepting this?
What are you doing with this? What are you doing with
Exactly.
So one thing I did want to discuss is we talked about some of these offenses like what people would think of as tickets, and we call those Class C misdemeanors.
Right.
And those are offenses that the only thing that can happen to you is you would have to pay a fine of up to $500.
Correct. But they're still able to hold you in jail for a certain amount of time.
Right. So you could be arrested.
You can be arrested. Public intoxication. I feel like every friend has a good story of a night in the drunk tank. That's your go-to. Sounds like Scott has.
No, I'm not a drinker. I'm just a jerk, but I'm not a drinker.
But so they can arrest you and they actually hold you until your blood alcohol gets below a certain level.
So it really is the drunk tank.
It really is the drunk tank. And they do have their own cell at the city jail that they sit at.
Really?
And
so it's kind of like the old Andy Griffin show where they would put Otis in the
exactly what I was
jail,
thinking
let him
Yes.
sleep it off.
And there are regulars for sure. And the nurses go every couple hours, have them breathalyzed. What's interesting is the chronic alcoholics, they don't wait till they're under the 0.08 because of the medical concerns. So if it's a chronic alcoholic and, they come in very high, they're like, oh, okay, they're like a 0.1. They're safe to go. So it's interesting, but your people are usually there for 8 hours for your PI, assault Class Cs. Thefts under $100 are Class C.
So somebody shoplifting at the Walmart,
yes,
they can be taken into custody.
They could, yes, and the officer has discretion. But
so, what do you think? Obviously, you only see the ones that are taken into custody, but you get your share of Class C thefts that do come before you, right?
Yes. And also, if you have traffic warrants, you get arrested and taken to the city jail. So I do manage that docket as well and see all those people. And they also can be there for 8 hours and are not happy about it.
I do have a burning question.
Okay.
So you've been back to look at these cells where they're being held.
Yes.
So do you have to go to the bathroom in front of everybody else in that cell?
There's a privacy
Little
wall.
A little wall?
I mean, it's not that private.
Okay.
But it's private enough.
As private as they're going to get.
Right.
The funny thing is, I think everybody wonders about that.
Yes.
Whether they say it or not, everybody wonders, if I get arrested and go to jail, do I have to use a bathroom in front of everybody
You do.
else?
And people are very comfortable, I would say.
I'm sure the regulars are like,
And
hey.
you have, and just the interesting issue for women versus men is men don't always need toilet paper where women do. They don't give you toilet paper in these cells because of issues of clogging the toilet and maybe just not acting maturely.
Wonderful.
So if you need toilet paper, you have to ask for it.
Wow.
Okay, so they will give it to you if you ask.
Yes.
Okay, I was panicking there.
Okay, yes. If you ask nicely, they will give you toilet paper.
That makes for
So like, give me some effing toilet paper. Isn't going to get a response?
Probably not.
Okay,
Banging on the window doesn't ever work.
that makes for an even longer stay. So, Lauren, we appreciate you coming on So You Got Arrested. I would remind our audience, if you ever have questions, you can reach out to us at justarrestedpodcast@gmail.com. Just email us, let us know what topics you want discussed. If you have questions that you want us to address on the show, this is Scott Simpson, Lauren Lefton, and Steve Barrera. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to So You Got Arrested. If you found this podcast helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. For more legal insights and real talk from the front lines of the Texas justice system, follow us and subscribe. And remember, Brick Criminal Defense has your back. For more information, visit us at brckdefense.com.